everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be sharing my experience interviewing with you and giving you tips on how to ace your MBA interview. If you're watching this, you probably have an interview lined up or know someone who does or are here to support me. In every case, welcome. Please hit like on this video, grab your notepads and definitely keep watching. The fact that you made it this far in the interview process, it means you're doing well and the outcomes want to speak to you. They're impressed by your profile, your application that you submitted, and they want to hear more about you. Your aim during the interview is to get the interviewers to like you and see you as a fit for their school. Do your research on the format or approach of the interviews. You can either speak to the adcoms you have been corresponding with to find out how the format will be like. Would it be a mix of behavioral and case-based questions, or will it just be behavioral questions? You can also speak to current students to find out what their experience was like interviewing. The last thing you can do is to check websites like clearadmit.com to find out if people that are going to your school have also populated it with information pertaining to the interview. Now, during your interview, the most likely first question you get is, tell me about yourself. This is not the time to start reading out your resume. They already have it. So you need to tell a compelling story about your journey, highlighting your past, your current phase, and what you're looking forward to do in the future. It is that simple. Your past, your current phase, and what you are looking forward to doing in the future with the help of your MBA. Also include a 1 or 2 liner about how the MBA will help you get there. Target like 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes to do a complete introduction about yourself. Repeatedly say it to yourself. Make it short, concise, and crisp. Other questions that you may get are, why do you want to get an MBA? Why at this time? Why this school? What are your longer and short-term goals? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? You definitely need to know your goals, why those goals are important to you, and how the things that you have achieved in the past is gearing up to what you want to be in the future. Now, for the behaviorals part of the interview, I strongly recommend that you write your stories down. Write your stories down. They will ask you a couple of behavioral questions, and you can check resources online for different types of behavioral questions that you could receive. I know that we can feel like we can remember everything that's happened to us in the course of our careers, right? Since it was us. But the truth of the matter is that without writing things down, you will not be able to articulately capture the essence of the story. So it's always good for you to write down your stories down precisely, putting numbers and time frames to the work that you have done. If you're feeling very lazy, just use the microphone feature on your Microsoft Word or Notepad. Speak into the mic and everything would be written down for you there, but obviously you may need to make some corrections because of intonation and speech recognition. I'm not asking you to cram your stories, definitely not. I'm just asking you to be able to clearly articulate the value that you have brought to every story. And so the more you look at it, the more you say it to yourself, the more you become familiar with the story, the less you bluff when you're talking about them. You need to document your stories because they form the bedrock of your interviews. And you'll be asking me, how do you do this? Go into your resume, highlight the things that you said that you did, and then bring out 10 different stories out of everything that you have written as a description. So if you have a description of something that you did in your time of work, take out that one thing and expand the scope. Think about how you got to that phase. Think about what problem the client was facing that you had to solve. Think about how you got through to achieving the result. I strongly recommend that in preparation for your MBA interview, you have at least 10 stories written down. As you continue on this journey, you'll find yourself modifying and updating these stories based on the work that you have done, more things that you remember, and as you deem fit. Trust me, your future self will thank you for this because this is just the initial stage. You still have your internship interview coming up for the summer. If you want to pivot into a different role for your full-time, you also have full-time interviews lined up. So it's a good place to start putting your stories together ahead of those interviews that are on the way. Practice, practice, practice. How do you do this? By having several mock interviews. In my case, I had over 10 interviews in preparation for my big day. We're not joking. We're not joking. You must get into school this year. No jokes here. Now, in writing out your stories, I recommend the STAR format, which is the situation, task, action, and result. And bonus tip, I usually add L, which is learning. So STARL, situation, task, action, result, and learning. Now the situation, the interviewer obviously wants to know what the situation was, how you got yourself into that position, what were the circumstances surrounding it. The task, what was required of you, what were you supposed to do. The actions, what things you actually carried out. The results, the impact of the work that you did. Now the learning is a reflection from the entire process. When you are answering the behavioral questions, you don't necessarily have to say the situation was XYZZZ, the task was XYZZZ, the action was XYZ. You don't necessarily have to say that. You can say it like a story format, but make sure when you are talking about the actions that you carried out, you number them. So you say, in preparation to do XYZ, the first thing I did was this. Secondly, I carried out this. Thirdly, I did this. And then finally, I did this. The result of doing that was XYZ increase in blah, blah, blah. I hope that's clear. When you are speaking, you need to be able to present your impact with facts and data that amplify the work that you have done, not just in generic terms. Here are some examples of behavioral questions that I got asked and I've amassed over the years. Tell us about an accomplishment you are most proud of and why this is very important to you. Tell me about a time you led a team or showed initiative. Tell me about a time you worked with people of diverse cultural backgrounds. Tell me about a time you worked with a difficult person. Tell me about a time you came up with a creative solution to a problem. Describe a difficult task you were faced with and how you addressed it. Tell me about a time you did something out of your scope of work that brought recognition to your team. The typical time frame for answering this question is between 2 and 3 minutes. You don't want to bore the people who are listening to you. They're human. After they finish asking you questions, it gets to a time where they ask you to ask them questions. Now, this is not the time you want to ask them basic questions or things that are already visible on their websites. You want to show that you are very enthusiastic about the school and you have done your research. When asking questions, have it in mind that the interviewers want to find a fit between who you are and what the program stands for. So definitely your curiosity and enthusiasm should show forth with the questions that you ask. Something to note when the interview starts that I did mention earlier is to write down the names and the positions of the people or the person interviewing you as soon as the interview starts. Many times we all, just have our stories around and we're not listening to the introductory part of the interview. That is wrong. Once you get into the interview, start by actually listening to what they say. You will be able to use that information to ask them questions when it's time to ask questions. So for instance, when an interview starts, the person would ideally tell you their name, tell you their role, tell you what they do. Not necessarily, but at least they'll tell you their name and their role. You want to start by asking, oh, I heard that you are, or you mentioned that you are the XXX of this. What has your experience been like in that role? How long have you worked in that capacity? That is a good place to start asking them questions from. You can go ahead to ask, what's a typical work day like for you? Other questions that you can ask are, what resources are available that help international students like me progress in their careers? You can also say that you have done your research on XYZ concentration and you have found some more interesting courses other than the ones that you chose. Now, would you be allowed to take courses from different concentrations while still being in a concentration? Another question that you can ask is that how does the school prepare students for case competitions and how often do case competitions happen in the school? Does the school participate in internal or external case competitions? And you have seen business students like you talk about case competitions and you just want to know what is available and possible with your school. What advice would you give a prospective MBA candidate in preparation for resumption? You can also go ahead to ask that if there's something they would like to change about the school, what would it be? And then finally, don't forget to ask what the next steps are when you expect to hear back from them. Wrap up your interview by being so gracious and thanking them for the opportunity to interview. And then after the interview, make sure that you send your thank you emails to them, just thanking them for their time and looking forward to hearing back from them soon. Also take a step further by going to LinkedIn and adding them up with the same thank you notes, or a shorter one, because LinkedIn typically does not allow you to write more than 300 words, I think. So go to their LinkedIn and connect with them, thanking them for their time. Bonus tip on appearance: please stay in a well-lit area, where your interviewer can see you, void of distractions. If you do not stay in a serviced apartment, especially if you're watching this video from Nigeria, if you do not stay in a serviced apartment where there is constant power supply, please turn on your generators before your interview. Make sure that you are confident, make sure you are smiling, make sure the tone of your voice is high enough for your interviewer to hear you clearly. Make sure you are enthusiastic and it is showing in the tone of your voice. Have a smile on your face and just stay confident. You've got this, and I'm rooting for you 100%. Stay motivated, stay encouraged, stay pumped. All the best in your interviews. Please hit like and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.